Good morning, good evening, or good night. Welcome to the UFO Forums Podcast. This is episode 10, where we take a closer look at the claims and stories surrounding an alleged meeting between President Dwight D. Eisenhower and extraterrestrial beings. Like and subscribe, and let's begin.
It really feels like we've been building up to this one for a while, hasn't it?
It does. I mean, we've touched on crash retrievals, we've looked at the biology, the nuts and bolts of the craft.
All the peripheral stuff, the fragments.
Exactly. But this story is, it's kind of the narrative glue. It's the central pillar that holds up so much of modern ufology. This is where the saucer meets the tarmac, so to speak.
That's the perfect way to put it. This is the genesis moment, the crossroads. If you want to understand the deep-seated belief in a government cover-up or where theories about reverse-engineered technology come from.
Like fiber optics or night vision.
Right, all of it. If you trace those threads back, they almost all lead to a single point in time. A few missing hours in February of 1954. It's the foundational myth of the entire phenomenon.
And when you say myth, you're not automatically saying it's false, right? You mean it in the classical sense, an origin story.
Precisely. Whether every detail is factually accurate or not, this story functions as the bedrock for the entire belief system. The idea that our government isn't just aware of non-human intelligences, but is actively engaged with them.
And to really get this, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself there. We need to set the scene. Forget today. We're going back to 1954.
The context is everything. You can't understand the decisions allegedly made without understanding the world of 1954. It's a pressure cooker.
World War II is still a fresh wound. It's been less than a decade.
The Korean War just ended in a very tense, uncomfortable armistice. The Cold War isn't just cold, it's at absolute zero.
So this is the height of the Red Scare, right? McCarthyism.
Oh, absolutely. Paranoia is practically national policy. People are building bomb shelters in their backyards. Kids are doing duck and cover drills at school. The existential dread it's palpable. Everyone is watching the skies, but they're not looking for flying saucers.
No, they're looking for Soviet bombers. They're terrified of the mushroom cloud. The H-bomb is a reality now.
And right in the middle of all that, you have President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Ike, the five-star general, the man who defeated the Nazis. He's this ultimate symbol of American strength and stability, kind of a grandfatherly figure everyone trusts.
Which is what makes the core of this story so jarring. The idea that this man, the most protected, most watched person on Earth, just disappeared.
For several hours.
Okay.
Gone. The press had no idea where he was. Panic starts to set in.
And when he finally reappears, the official story is one thing, but, well, the story that's been growing in the shadows for 70 years is something else entirely.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're going to unpack the source material, and we have a lot of it. We've got supposed leaked documents, whistleblower testimony from, all over the place.
From former Israeli space chiefs to U.S. Navy intelligence guys, and my personal favorite detail in all of this?
Not going to guess. The dental records.
The dental records. You know you're deep in the weeds when you're analyzing a president's tooth to prove first contact with aliens.
It sounds absurd, but sometimes the most mundane details are where you find the cracks in the official story.
Exactly. The devil's in the details. Or, in this case, maybe the aliens are in the incisors.
Okay, let's start there. Section 1. The night Ike went missing. Saturday, February 20th, 1954.
So, as you said, Eisenhower is in Palm Springs, California. He's on a vacation, staying at a place called the Smoke Tree Ranch. It's supposed to be a relaxing golf trip.
Just getting away from the gray Washington winter. Can't blame him.
So it's a Saturday night. He's had dinner. The press pool, which is always nearby, is sort of waiting around for the next photo op. And then nothing.
He's gone.
He's not where he's supposed to be. The Secret Service is being cagey. And you have to understand, even in the 50s, the press kept a very close eye on the president. When they realized they couldn't account for him, the rumor mill went into overdrive.
And these weren't small rumors. We're talking catastrophic level rumors.
The Associated Press was apparently on the verge of running a story that he'd had a massive heart attack.
Can you imagine? The President of the United States dead in the middle of the Cold War. The markets would have crashed. The Soviets might have seen it as an opportunity.
It would have been global chaos.
Yeah.
Some wires were even reporting he was already dead. That's how serious the information vacuum was. For a few hours, the president was MIA.
And then, just as the panic is about to boil over, the White House steps in.
An explanation is released. The press secretary, James Haggerty, appears, and he has this very mundane story to tell.
Not a heart attack, not a national security crisis.
The president, he says, chipped a tooth.
A tooth. All of that for a tooth.
A very specific tooth, mind you. The official report states it was his upper left central incisor.
That is suspiciously specific, isn't it? It's not just he hurt his tooth. It's like they're trying a little too hard to sell it.
Specificity creates an aura of credibility. The story was that he was eating a chicken wing at dinner.
Of course a chicken wing. It's so normal. So relatable.
And he bit down wrong, chipped the cap on his tooth. And for a president, that is, a legitimate aesthetic emergency. You can't have the leader of the free world on camera with a busted tooth.
It projects weakness, sloppiness.
Oh.
So they had to fix it.
The story goes he was rushed to a local dentist for an emergency repair. Case closed. Everyone go home.
But the case is not closed, because this is where the dental records come in.
Right. Our sources cite a dental historian, which is a real job, apparently, named James Mixon. He went through Eisenhower's records.
And what did he find? Did he have a bad tooth?
Oh, he did. Mixon confirms there was a thin-cast gold-platinum thimble crown on that exact tooth, and it was a problem tooth that had been repaired before in late 1952. So the idea that he had dental issues is true.
So that supports the official story.
It supports the plausibility, but here's the snag. The records show the next repair to that tooth was in July of 1954.
July, not February.
Correct. There's no official record of an emergency dental procedure on that specific night in February.
So the timing is off.
The timing is off. And ufologists point to the sheer convenience of it all. You need to sneak the president off base for a few hours at night with total secrecy. What's the perfect excuse?
A sudden medical emergency. One that's not life-threatening, but requires immediate private attention.
A chipped tooth is perfect.
Yep.
And the destination, according to the lore, well, it wasn't a dentist's office.
Where was it?
It was Edwards Air Force Base, what used to be called Muroc Airfield.
Which is, what, a short flight or a drive from Palm Springs?
It's doable, and the claim is this wasn't an accident, it wasn't a chance sighting, this was a pre-arranged meeting, a diplomatic summit.
A summit with who? This leads us to the second part of the story. Who did he meet there?
And this is where the narrative really diverges from what people might expect. If you ask someone to draw an alien, you get the big head, the big black eyes.
The gray, the classic emoji alien.
Right. But that's not who was supposedly waiting for him at Edwards. The beings at this first meeting are known in the literature as the Nordics.
Nordics, like from Scandinavia.
That's the description. They were said to be strikingly human-looking. Tall, blonde or white hair, pale blue eyes.
So, not little green men at all. They sound like supermodels.
Almost. But with these unnerving little details, one recurring description is that they had colorless lips. Just pale, no pigment.
That's an unsettling detail, just off enough to be completely alien.
It's deep in the uncanny valley, and the communication reportedly was not verbal, it was telepathic.
Wow, okay, so you're Ike. You're a 5-star general, you're used to being in command, and you're standing in a hangar with these beings, and they're speaking directly into your mind.
The power dynamic is completely inverted. You're no longer in control. So what was on the agenda? Why were they there?
Did they come with a warning? An invasion fleet?
No, they came with an offer, a deal. They offered to provide humanity through the United States with incredibly advanced technology and something else. They called it spiritual wisdom.
Spiritual wisdom, that sounds very benevolent, very Kultu Barada Nikto.
It does. But there was a catch. A huge one. An ultimatum, really.
There's always a catch.
In exchange for all of this, the United States, and by extension the world, had to agree to the complete elimination of its nuclear arsenal.
Whoa, okay. Total nuclear disarmament.
Total. The sources suggest the Nordics saw our nuclear weapons as a profound threat, not just to us, but as a cosmic problem. They saw us as, violent children who had just discovered fire and were about to burn the whole house down.
And they weren't going to give us even better matches until we agreed to put the first fire out.
Precisely. They wouldn't share technology that could be weaponized with a species that was on the brink of self-annihilation.
This connects directly to Eisenhower's own public statements at the time, doesn't it?
It's a critical piece of context. Just a couple of months before this alleged meeting, in December of 1953, Ike gives his famous Atoms for Peace speech at the United Nations.
Right, where he proposes using atomic energy for peaceful purposes under international control.
He's talking about the horror of nuclear war. He sounds like a man who is deeply personally troubled by the existence of these weapons.
So the theory is that speech wasn't just for the Soviets or the UN. It was a signal, an overture.
A broadcast into the cosmos saying, we're open to a different path. And you have to remember, Eisenhower was a general, but he hated war. He saw its cost firsthand. He probably wanted to take the deal.
Personally, yeah. Who wouldn't want free energy and spiritual enlightenment?
But he couldn't. The reality of 1954 made it impossible.
The Cold War.
The Soviets.
Exactly. The military and intelligence community, what he would later call the military-industrial complex, they would have seen it as insanity, unilaterally disarming based on a promise from these telepathic Swedes.
While the Soviets are building up their arsenal, it would have been seen as suicide, the end of the United States as a superpower.
The generals would never have allowed it. They needed the nukes. They needed the military advantage, so the deal was rejected.
The Nordics get back in their beautiful, spiritually advanced ship, and they just leave.
They leave. And that rejection in this narrative is the pivotal moment. It's the great what if by saying no to the path of peace and disarmament. We basically sent out a different signal.
We did. We announced to the galaxy that we weren't interested in wisdom. We were interested in weapons. We created a power vacuum. And something else was waiting to fill it.
So if one group of visitors leaves empty-handed, that leads us to the next part of this saga, the second meeting.
Because word gets around, apparently. If the idealists won't make a deal, maybe the pragmatists will.
Enter the Greys.
The ones everyone knows. The timeline, according to the source material, jumps forward about a year. We're now in February of 1955.
And a different location.
Holloman Air Force Base, New Mexico. And a different cover story.
No chip tooth this time.
This time, Eisenhower was officially on a hunting vacation.
Right. And there are witness accounts tied to this one.
There are. Sources mention a former Air Force medic named Bill Kirkland, among others, who claimed to have been present. There were also reports of Air Force One, the presidential plane, being spotted on the tarmac at Holloman.
Which would be strange if he was supposed to be on a hunting trip somewhere else entirely.
A huge red flag. And the description of the event is cinematic. A saucer lands near the runway in broad daylight. The President of the United States walks out to meet it. He either boards the craft or meets the occupants on the tarmac for at least 45 minutes.
And these weren't the Nordics.
Definitely not. These are identified as the Greys, specifically tall Greys. Some sources even claim it was a German-Draco alliance, which is a whole other rabbit hole connecting to Nazi occultism.
Let's stick with the Greys for now. What was their offer? What made their deal different?
Well, the big difference was they didn't care about our nukes.
They weren't concerned with our spiritual development or our tendency to blow things up.
Not in the slightest. They were transactional. They came to make a deal, and it was a very different kind of deal. This is what's known in ufology as the Great Treaty.
Okay, let's break down the terms. This sounds like the classic deal with the devil. What did we get?
The alien provision was technology, advanced technology, anti-gravity, exotic energy sources, beam weapons, metallurgy. Everything the military-industrial complex could possibly dream of to gain an absolute decisive edge over the Soviets.
The ultimate Cold War trump card.
Exactly. And in exchange, what did we have to give?
What was the human provision?
We had to agree to look the other way.
Look the other way on what?
On abductions. The treaty allegedly allowed the Greys to abduct a limited number of human beings for biological and medical study.
They were allowed to take U.S. citizens.
The phrasing in some of the source material is chilling. It refers to them taking earthling cattle and humans.
Cattle and humans. They put us in the same category as livestock.
We became a biological resource to be harvested. Now, there were supposed to be safeguards. The government insisted on it.
What kind of safeguards?
The abductees had to be returned unharmed. Their memories of the event had to be erased, and the Greys had to provide MJ-12 with a list of all the people they were taking.
So there was supposed to be oversight. You can borrow our people, but you have to bring them back safe and sound, and we get a receipt.
That was the idea, a deeply unethical idea, but there was a framework.
But it was a lie, wasn't it?
It was a trap. The sources claim the Greys started violating the terms almost immediately. They took far more people than the quota allowed.
And the memory wipes weren't perfect. People started remembering fragments, dramatic fragments.
And people weren't always returned. This, according to the theory, is the origin of the modern abduction phenomenon. It wasn't random. It was sanctioned.
That's a horrifying thought, that the government essentially sold out its own citizens for technology. And then they were powerless to stop it because they couldn't admit what they'd done.
They were completely compromised. They were in a pact with a group they couldn't control and couldn't expose without causing a revolution. They were trapped by their own secret.
Which raises the question of bureaucracy. You can't run an interplanetary treaty out of a shoebox. You need an organization, a structure.
A permanent government that exists outside of elections and public scrutiny.
And that brings us to Majestic 12.
MJ-12, the most famous or infamous secret committee that may or may not have ever existed.
The story of how these documents came to light is a thriller in itself.
It really is. We go forward in time to December 1984. A UFO researcher and TV producer named Jamie Shandera gets an anonymous package in the mail.
The classic manila envelope, no return address.
Postmarked Albuquerque, New Mexico. Inside, there's a roll of undeveloped 35mm film.
So he has to go get it developed. It feels so analog, so Cold War.
And the photos are of documents, top-secret Majestic stamped documents. There's a briefing paper for President-elect Eisenhower, dated just after he won the election in 1952.
So this is supposedly the briefing he got to bring him up to speed on the Roswell crash and the alien reality before he even took office.
Correct. And there's another document, a memo from President Truman from September 1947, authorizing the creation of this committee.
Majestic 12. What was their mission?
To manage the alien problem, to study the technology from the Roswell crash, to analyze the bodies, and to keep it all under wraps.
And who was on this committee? The alleged members are a big part of the story, aren't they?
They are, because it's a who's who of the 1940s defense and science establishment. You have Dr. Vannevar Bush.
The man who basically ran the Manhattan Project.
Yeah.
The top scientist in the country.
You have James Forrestal, the first ever Secretary of Defense, General Nathan Twining, head of Air Material Command, Admiral Roscoe Hillencutter, the first director of the CIA.
It's a plausible list. If you were Truman and a spaceship crashed in your backyard, these are the exact 12 guys you'd call.
Which is what makes the whole thing so fiercely debated. Is it real, or is it a brilliantly crafted hoax that uses that plausibility against us?
The believers, like the late Stanton Friedman, a nuclear physicist.
He was the champion of the MJ-12 documents. He argued for decades that the technical jargon, the formatting, the inside baseball nature of the documents was too accurate for a civilian to have faked.
But the debunkers have some very strong points. The FBI investigated.
They did, and their official conclusion, stamped in big letters on their file, is the word BOGUS.
That's pretty blunt.
And then you have the arch skeptic, Philip J. Klass. He went after the documents forensically. He found what he claimed was the smoking gun.
The Truman signature.
Exactly. He found an authentic, declassified letter that Truman had written to Vannevar Bush on a totally unrelated matter. He claimed the signature on the MJ-12 memo was a photocopy of the signature from that real letter.
How could he tell?
It was too perfect. And not just that, there was a tiny scratch mark on the original letter's signature. The same scratch mark appeared on the MJ-12 signature.
Ouch. That's hard to explain away. It implies a cut-and-paste job.
It's very damning. He also pointed to anachronisms, like typewriter fonts that might not have been in use on government machines in 1947.
So the skeptics say it's a hoax, possibly perpetrated by people inside the UFO community to create evidence.
That's one theory. But then there's the third option, the one that really messes with your head.
The disinformation theory.
The idea that the documents are fake, but that they were created and leaked by the government itself.
Why on earth would they do that?
To muddy the waters, to control the narrative. You release a document that's 80% true and 20% false, with deliberate, provable errors. When a researcher finds the errors, they discredit the entire thing, including the 80% that was true.
So you hide the truth in plain sight, inside a lie.
It's a classic counterintelligence technique. People like Richard Doty, a former Air Force special agent, have hinted at this sort of thing. It creates a hall of mirrors where you can never be sure what's real. The document is fake, but is the committee it describes real?
And this all ties back to the people who claim to have seen the real documents. The whistleblowers.
And you have to start with the man the sources call the granddaddy of this conspiracy, William or Bill Cooper.
His book, Behold a Pale Horse. It's a foundational text in the conspiracy world.
Cooper was former naval intelligence. He claimed that in the 1970s, he was part of a briefing team and was shown documents that laid out this entire history. The Eisenhower meetings, the Grada Treaty, the betrayal by the Greys, MJ-12, all of it.
He was one of the first to really put the whole narrative together in one place.
He was. His credibility has been heavily questioned over the years, but he's the one who popularized the story for a mass audience.
But it's not just figures from the past. More recently, we've had some bombshell claims from very high-level people. Haim Eshed.
This was huge when it broke in 2020. This is not some fringe character. Haim Eshed was the head of Israel's space security program for almost 30 years, a general, a professor, a man with the highest possible security clearances.
And he comes out in his 80s and just says, it's all true.
He told an Israeli newspaper that a galactic federation is real, that they're in contact with the U.S. and Israel, and that the Eisenhower Agreement was the beginning of it.
He also said the Federation has asked not to be revealed yet because, and I quote, humanity isn't ready.
He even brought a recent U.S. president into it. He claimed Donald Trump was on the verge of revealing their existence.
He was going to tweet it out or something.
And the Galactic Federation stepped in and told him to stand down, to prevent mass hysteria.
That's an incredible claim from someone of his stature. He also mentioned a joint U.S. alien underground base on Mars, didn't he?
He did. With American astronauts and alien representatives working together, it lines up perfectly with the whole secret space program narrative. It forces you to wonder, is he losing his mind? Is it a psyop? Or is it a guy at the end of his life with nothing to lose trying to clear his conscience?
And we have other, more technical whistleblowers, like Bill Newhouse.
Newhouse claimed to be an engineer who worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base on a flight simulator.
Not a 747 simulator, I'm guessing.
A flying saucer simulator. He claimed he was part of a team trying to teach human pilots how to fly reverse-engineered alien craft. And he said he worked alongside a living alien advisor.
A living consultant.
A gray alien he called J-Rod. J-Rod. According to Newhouse, J-Rod was there to help them understand the physics, the interface. A biological guide to alien tech.
And then there's a more recent figure, JP, who claims to be at MacDill Air Force Base.
Right. His claims came out around 2017. He provided photos of what he said were anti-gravity craft. And his story is interesting because he brings the Nordics back into the picture.
The first group Eisenhower met.
Yes. JP's story suggests an ongoing collaboration with the Nordics, which complicates the narrative. Maybe we didn't burn that bridge completely, or maybe different factions of the secret government are working with different alien groups.
Which implies a complex, multipolar galactic political scene that we've stumbled into. It's not just us and the Greys.
It's a dozen different chess games being played at once.
So what's the legacy of all this? If any of it is true, how did it change our world? This is Section 6, the technological and social implications.
This is the so what question. And the first, most obvious place to look is the technological explosion of the 20th century.
The timeline is suspicious, you have to admit. For thousands of years, technology progresses at a certain pace, and then after 1947, after 1954, it goes vertical.
The hockey stick graph of progress. Transistors, lasers, fiber optics, integrated circuits, night vision, Kevlar. So many revolutionary technologies, all appearing in a very short window of time.
The theory is this wasn't just human ingenuity. This was the payoff from the treaty. We were given the schematics.
We were reverse engineering the gifts from the Greys, but it came at a terrible price, the ethical costs.
The abductions. The idea that our modern world, our smartphones, our internet, our medical advances
could all be built on a foundation of a criminal conspiracy against our own people. That we traded the bodies and minds of an unknown number of civilians for military and technological superiority.
It's the ultimate dirty secret.
And it leads directly to the idea of a secret space program. The theory that while NASA was the public-facing, feel-good space agency with its chemical rockets,
That tracks.
the real action was happening in the shadows. The Air Force, or some other entity, was using the anti-gravity tech to build a fleet of craft that could go to Mars in an afternoon.
Building bases on the moon, on Mars, on Titan, becoming a true spacefaring civilization in secret, while the rest of us were stuck here.
That's the claim. That we've already colonized the solar system, but only a tiny elite fraction of humanity knows about it.
There's also a spiritual warning in all this, which connects back to the Nordics. The sources mention Edgar Cayce.
The famous psychic. His philosophy warned of a future where humanity would achieve great technological power, but without a corresponding growth in spiritual ethics.
It would lead to self-destruction. The Atlantis myth, basically.
Exactly. We got the Greys' technology, but we rejected the Nordics' wisdom. We got the hardware, but not the moral software to run it. We have the power of gods and the judgment of angry children.
And it all comes back to Eisenhower at that fork in the road. He was presented with two paths.
The Nordic path. Peace, wisdom, disarmament, but it required a leap of faith. And the gray path, power, technology, military dominance, but it required a deal with the devil.
And the choice was made, or it was made for him.
And we are living in the world that choice created.
So, wrapping all of this up, what's the final synthesis when you look at the whole messy, contradictory, incredible story? What's at its heart?
At its heart, it's a story about the very thing Eisenhower warned the world about in his farewell address.
The military-industrial complex.
He warned us to guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by this complex. Everyone thinks he was talking about defense budgets and lobbying.
But maybe he was talking about something much, much deeper.
Maybe he was talking about the unelected, permanent group of generals and industrialists who forced his hand in 1954, the men who chose the treaty with the Greys, the real power behind the throne. This story is the ultimate parable of the MIC. Whether aliens were involved or not, it captures the fear that our elected government isn't really the one in charge.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the listener. The cover story for this monumental event, this first contact, was a chip tooth. A mundane, boring, everyday problem.
A chicken wing accident. It's the perfect camouflage.
So, if the most important meeting in human history could be hidden behind something so trivial, what else have we missed?
It changes how you read the news, doesn't it?
It really does. How many other weird, minor news stories from the past 70 years? A politician's sudden stomach flu, a dignitary's unscheduled maintenance on their plane, a sudden hiking trip.
How many of those were just the cover stories for the real history of the world happening just out of sight?
That's a question that's going to stick with me.
Me too.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Whether you think Ike met aliens or just had some bad luck with his dinner, it is an undeniable cornerstone of modern lore.
It's the story that started it all.
Thank you to the learner for diving deep with us.
Keep asking questions.
Like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.